Hello and welcome to my channel, Vice Rhino here. Today I'm hopping back on the Hovind bandwagon and taking a look at his Creation Today show. For this episode, we're going to discuss dinosaur farts. And yes, that one dude, I did mispronounce his name. So to save time from here on out, I'll just call anyone with the Hovind surname Jackass, alright? Alright, let's go.
We got to talk about fuzzy words because this is something that a friend of ours, Mike, put us onto, right? Mike Riddle?
Yes, Mike Riddle from the Creation Training Initiative.
Mike Riddle. You remember him, right? The guy who had no idea how science or evolution works? Off to a great start here.
The Creation Training Initiative, he's the president of that, and he talked about fuzzy words. And fuzzy words are really when you get articles, popular scientific articles, or even TV programs, but particularly written articles in newspapers, magazines, journals, and so on, websites, and they use various phrases which Mike likes to call fuzzy words, and they're phrases that really mean practically nothing at all.
Eric is laughing here because he knows that his entire presuppositionalist argument relies on that very definition of fuzzy words in order to work.
It's when they've got nothing that they've got to say on the scientific subject. And we've got a really great example of that as we were putting this program together, one very interesting example came up. A news report from some scientists in Britain. And
you know this would come from Britain, of course.
No, but the news reports...
Oh yeah, Britain. That place that's very well known for its fuzzy words and science journalism, I guess. All right.
Been all over the place. We've had news reports on Fox News on their website, and several British news agencies have picked it up as well. And we've chosen one from England's Daily Telegraph magazine. You can find this online, dailytelegraph.com. Beg your pardon, telegraph.co.uk. You can find it there. And well, just let me read the headlines to you from what these scientists from the John Moores University in Liverpool.
Wait, are you under the impression that the scientists are the ones writing these news articles? That's not usually the case, and I will be very surprised if it turns out to be in this case.
I've been doing some research, and the Telegraph's headline, which is one of the more polite ones, says, "Dinosaurs passing wind may have caused climate change."
Wow!
So I searched for that article, and it doesn't actually say who wrote it. So my money is definitely on a journalist rather than a scientist. Also, how is that fuzzy? Without even reading the article, I can tell you that they're probably going to talk about how the digestion process of huge dinosaurs would have released enough greenhouse gases to affect the climate. That's not saying nothing. That's a very definite thing.
That would be a bad way to go. Can we just be honest? That would be a really bad way to go.
Now, you know, it always amazes me when people publish articles, in any case, that talk about research on the subject of dinosaurs and their behaviour. I mean, how can they possibly know? For example, in one part in the article, it actually says that these scientists, their study began when they began to wonder about Mesozoic methane while investigating sauropod ecology. Now, how do you investigate sauropod ecology?
No kidding.
You have a computer right there. Google is at your fingertips. I found this article from the University of California Museum of Paleontology that goes over some of the details. Link in the description. But essentially it boils down to nests, footprints, and fossils. I know this is a foreign concept to you, but try reading it.
Let's study what the environment was like when the sauropods were here, when you believe they died 65 million years ago? Are you kidding me?
And the answer for this one comes from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. They can study information about ancient climates by studying the ocean sediment, coral reefs, and ice cores. Link down below.
I mean, obviously there are certain things you can do. You can look at what fossils were found with the dinosaurs to some extent. So there's certain things you can say, as many of us creationists will as well.
But you can't really study the ecology of the place.
The implication is it's to do with their behaviour.
Yes, they infer behavior from the information gathered from nests, fossils, and footprints. You can tell a surprising amount of information about an animal from these few things. Paleontology does not become invalidated just because you, who have not spent years of your life devoted to studying it, don't understand quite how it works. This is the argument from personal incredulity in action, ladies and gentlemen.
So let's just talk about these fuzzy words.
Now, I like what you did here, and this is what I want you guys to see. He's actually gone through, and you got to learn how to do this when you're looking at a scientific article. He's gone through, and you've highlighted in yellow all the fuzzy words, underlined the real science, and this is fascinating. Check this out.
And you'll see this on the screen, but I'm just holding this piece of paper so you can see some of the yellow marks. I have highlighted phrases which are fuzzy words in yellow so that you can see the bits that they don't really know. For example,
the title.
Huge plant-eating dinosaurs may have produced enough greenhouse gas by breaking wind to alter the Earth's climate, the research suggests.
Okay, so I went to Google Scholar and I tried to find the actual paper that was being referred to in the article. I couldn't find the exact one, but I found one that sounds similar or perhaps is a precursor to it. I'd like to see you go through it and highlight the fuzzy words for me. Here's the title. Fossils and Fossil Climate, the Case for Equable Continental Interiors in the Eocene. After reading the abstract, what I understand is that their mathematical models were not matching with what their data indicated. So being good scientists, they sought to update their models to more accurately represent the data. I'm not paying to see the whole paper, but what that would have meant for Dr. Wilkinson's paper would be changing their simulation to be a more accurate representation of reality. It was probably a fairly simple case of extrapolating based on what we know of cow digestion and similar animals. Will it be perfect? Probably not, but it's closer than its predecessor.
How do you even write that without laughing? Come on.
That's amazing.
These are news writers. They probably wrote that specifically for the laughs, because laughs equal clicks. You're giving the impression that you think you're reading a peer-reviewed study published in a scientific journal. That's not the case.
Like huge cows, the mighty sauropods would have generated, there's a fuzzy word phrase, would have. When people say something would have, it means they don't know it. They're speculating within their story.
It's a bit more than speculation, more like extrapolation. We know how digestion works. We know what plants were around at the same time as the dinosaurs. We know what plants the dinos would have been able to eat with their type of teeth. We know what kind of reactions would need to have taken place in order to turn the plants into useful chemical energy for the dinos. We do not know the exact specifics of the process, and likely never will, because as you so astutely pointed out, they did. But that doesn't mean we don't have a good idea of how it worked.
Now this article is full of that. Just look again at this piece of paper and you can see I've covered it with loads of coloured marks. And when you've done that, you find that there is practically no science in the article at all.
Look, Mommy, I made it pretty colours. That means I'm right.
Science, and you've underlined that in blue right there.
Yeah, there's some real science. For instance, here's a sentence that says, methane is a more potent greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide with a stronger ability to trap heat. Now,
Very true.
That is, of course, true. Here's another one. The figure that they've calculated for how much methane they thought these dinosaurs produced is comparable to total natural and man-made methane emissions today. Before the start of the industrial age, about 150 years ago, methane emissions were around 181 million tons per year. Now that's true, but that's it. That's really all there is in a huge article.
And they've used that little bit of science to try to drum up all this stuff about evolution. Really, the whole motive here is to try to push the millions of years, to try to push dinosaurs going extinct millions of years ago, and a possible cause of that.
Really? I didn't see anything in the article suggesting that the methane was the cause of them going extinct. It's simply another variable they can account for when modeling the ancient climate. And remember, you're reading a news article, not a scientific article. News! This was published in the Telegraph. You're acting as though it were published in the Journal of Paleontology.
Don't be afraid of these sort of articles. That's the message that we have.
And we read scientific articles from news magazines all the time that are just like this, aren't they?
Yes. You really do not need to be a scientist to understand how silly some of these articles are.
Probably because none of these articles were authored by scientists. Well, that's it for this segment of their show, so I'm going to call it quits. This episode of their show was supposed to talk about how it's possible that atheists don't know anything at all, and they didn't even touch on that yet. And they're more than halfway into their video, so maybe I'll do that next time. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. You can also follow me on Twitter and Minds. See you next time!